Partial invisibility. What's up, fellas? The folks watching after the fact. I didn't even consider the fact that there was no analysis on partial invisibility, nor did I expect the video to be 15 minutes long. Well, okay, subtracting, like, the outro with the Patreon list, more like 12 or 13, but I guess there's a bunch to talk about with this, so I guess we'll see. For those not in the know, Decino has given me consent to react to this video. If you've not seen the original, close the video, or mute the stream if you're here live, and go to his channel, go give it your first view. Come back here, we'll watch this together. As usual, but I will restate for the folks on stream who might be only seeing this for the first time. During a reaction video, my chat interactivity is going to be much lower, so I can focus on the video. In case anyone here is wondering why I'm not reacting to the chat, or if I do react to the chat, why I'm talking to a ghost. All right. Partial invis. Let's do it, fellas. Sleep well, zombie.
Partial invisibility, blur sphere, blur artifact, power down.
Power down,
This strange orb has got many names. As the pickup message tells you, and your weapon sprite also, this artifact turns Doomguy partially invisible. Enemies can still spot you, but the accuracy will be reduced when they attack.
Which used to really make me sad, because I was like, I'm invisible! What do you mean you can see me? But...
how does that work? Let's have a look, shall we? I mean, why else would you click on that elusive yellow thumbnail, right? When the player picks up a partial invisibility, a special flag internally named MF Shadow will be set for 60 seconds. There are two functions
is that the sequel to MF Doom?
in the code that check if the target has the shadow flag set. The first function is A face target. As the name implies, this will adjust the entity's angle to face their target. The condition here
It's not even that funny, but I don't know why it makes me laugh.
this will adjust the entity's angle to face their target. The condition here will add a random offset of up to plus 44 to minus 44 degrees to the current angle if the target has the shadow flag set. The second function is P-spawn missile. Usually projectiles are shot at 100% accuracy towards the target, but when they have the shadow flag set, the projectile's angle will have a random offset of up to plus 22 to minus 22 degrees. Both these functions have quite some oddities, so let's go check them out. Let's start with A face target. All enemies will use A face target when they attack.
Yeah, because that's the... okay, I guess the best thing I could do is probably make predictions on how this works to see if I'm correct, because I'm not smart. I notice, and you can see this most often with the Archvile, is whenever you have the partial invisibility, if they aim for you, like when he does his attack, he'll just randomly start spinning. I guess trying to find you. You know, find you in quotes, so...
Well, most of the time. Barons and Hell Knights miss an A-face target call when they toss their fireball.
Yeah, they're the weird ones, I remember. They can throw fireballs out of their ass. Oh, I guess we're out to see
Quite
that.
humorous. Speaking of fireballs, since spawning projectiles uses a separate angle randomizer, the angle the enemy is facing may not correspond with the angle of the projectile. Lost Souls use A-face target to lock onto their target.
Which is
this
hilarious.
too will cause Lost Souls to have their angle randomized when the partial invisibility is involved.
Yeah, it's
Same with
hilarious.
Lost Souls spawned by Pain Elementals. Even those that spawn when the Pain Elemental dies will emerge charging at random angles, which is pretty nice, as most of the time they end up slamming into each other. A-face target is also used by hit scanners to aim at their target. The only difference is that this angle is then naturally randomized to up to plus 22 to minus 22 degrees. If the initial angle was already randomized because of partial visibility, then this offset will stack. Logically, you'd say that it's a simple addition.
Oh! Yeah, that's right, because it's already a random offset, because, yeah, it's a hit scan. So, yeah, okay, then it's... well, I already knew that it was effective against hit scan stuff, because you're not getting juked by a projectile. But I guess it's double effective.
Where the maximum random offset will be plus 66
I didn't think about that.
to minus 66 degrees. But because of how Doom's RNG works, that will not be possible. To reach 66 degrees, you need several high number RNG rolls in a row. But since the RNG table is predetermined, there's no such sequence. The range is actually more around plus 47 to minus 47 degrees. Well, that is, until shotgun zombies and spider masterminds are involved. Since they fire 3 pellets per tick, the RNG rolls can have a bit more variety. A pellet
yeah.
can hit a wall and spawn a puff of smoke. The puff of smoke makes RNG calls to determine a frame duration offset. When the pellets hit something, it will spawn blood, which also makes RNG calls related to the animation, but an RNG roll is also made for the pain chance. This will cause the second pellet to have an RNG value far away from the initial A phase target RNG call, which allows for a lot more variation compared to the other zombies attacks, which only perform one hit scan attack per tick. So for shotgun zombies and spider demons, the pellet spread with partial visibility is slightly expanded, plus 56 to minus 57 degrees. So that's A phase target. Now let's have a look at P spawn missile. As mentioned earlier, projectiles spawned through this function will have a randomized offset between plus 22 and minus 22 degrees. The following projectiles will be affected: Imp fireballs, Cacodemon lightning balls, Hell Noble fireballs, Arachnotron plasma bolts, Revenant's non-homing missiles, and Cyberdemon rockets. We purposefully left out one projectile because it's the only one in Doom 2 with a natural angle offset, the Mancubus fireball. One fireball in the first shot will have a plus 11 degrees offset.
Yeah.
The next shot will have a fireball with a minus 22 degrees offset.
Because I know when you have a an invis with a Mancubus, both fireballs just kind of do whatever they want. I looking forward to seeing the specifics, but I know they kind of just, you know.
Final shot will have both fireballs with a plus 6 and a minus 6 degrees offset. Partial visibility will affect both fireballs separately, creating some crazy scenarios, especially with the fireballs that have a natural angular offset. The first angled fireball can have a random offset between plus 33 to minus 11 degrees.
Jesus.
The second one can have a range from minus 1 to minus 44 degrees. And with the third shot, both fireballs will effectively have their angles expanded to plus 28 to minus 27 degrees. Not all attacks are affected by partial visibility, however. When Archvals conjure the flame attack, they will call a phase target for each pride frame. Each angle will have a random offset when the target is partially invisible. Despite the funny dance movement and invisibility, the Archvals zap will always be 100% accurate. Melee attacks will also screw up enemy angles, but since enemy melee attacks are a simple point-to-point calculation, where no angles are involved, it too will always be 100% accurate. The Revenant's homing missile
it's
doesn't
pretty
care
binary
for
with
partial
that.
visibility. The missile may spawn with a random angle, but will soon correct itself and chase you down with 100% accuracy. What a bunch of cheaters.
Yeah!
If you're wondering if the enemy's vertical aim is affected by partial visibility, it isn't. We just talked about enemy attacks that are naturally inaccurate, such as hit scanners and the Mancubus. Let's do a fun experiment. We can do a simple test to see how many of their attacks land on a target that is standing still and determine their accuracy. Because distance is a factor, we'll place a target at 5 different spots: 2000, 1000, 500, 250 and 125 units distance between the attacker and target. Let's start with the hit scanners that fire one shot per tick: Zombie Men, Chain Gunners, and Wolfenstein guys.
Okay.
It's worth noting that hit scan is limited to 2048 units, so any distance beyond that effectively turns the accuracy to 0%.
Yeah.
At 2000 units, their accuracy is about 3%, so 3% of the shots will land at this distance. At 1000 units, it's 8%, 500 units, it's 16%, 250 units, it's 31%, and at 125 units, it's around 68%.
It effectively doubles. That makes sense. That seems to scale pretty linearly.
Numbers are theoretical estimates. Missed shots caused by the epic block map bug are not accounted for. Let's compare it to when the target is partially invisible. At 2000.
So since it seems to, I would estimate it would cut the number in half, right? Because it basically doubles the spread of the. Because the hit scan already has like a 22 degree offset, and then I already forgot the number, to be honest, but I think it was like an additional 22 or something like that, right? So going based off of numbers alone, I imagine it would just cut these values in half. But
1000 units, it's more or less the same at 2%.
Never mind.
1000 units doesn't change much, 3%. 500 units has an accuracy of 9%.
No, I'm right, never mind.
250 units, it's 17%, and 125 units, it's 35%.
it's okay, never mind, I was right. Yeah! It's more or less half. You know, give or take 1 or 2%.
We can roughly determine that the accuracy is pretty much halved. Shotgunners and spider.
Yeah! Anyway.
Masterminds are different, as they have 3 hit scan attacks in one single tick, increasing the odds of any of the 3 hitting the target. Let's have a look at the natural accuracy first. Starting off with a distance of 2000 units, 9% chance one of the 3 pellets will hit you. At 1000 units, 24%. 500 units, 39%. 250 units, 73%. And at 125 units, you're almost guaranteed to get hit, 98%. At 2000 units, when the target is partially invisible, there's a 4% chance one of the 3 pellets will land. At 1000 units, it's 9%. At 500 units, it's 18%. At 250 units, it's around 37%, and at 125 units, it's around 57%. Again, partial invisibility more or less halves the accuracy. Just like hit scanners, Lost Souls and Pain Elementals use A phase target to aim at their target. There is no natural spread.
Now, and of course, I just want to say, just for, for myself, this is also in a vacuum. This is assuming you are standing still, nothing else is hitting you. In an actual setting, that's not likely. You're going to be moving. You're going to be dodging projectiles. They're going to be moving. The range will be changing. So, more or less, it halves the accuracy.
But, of course, with partial invisibility, there is 2,000 units, 3%, 1,000 units, 8%, 500 units, 15%, 250 units, 30%, and at 125 units, 65%. Shot projectiles are naturally 100% accurate if the target is standing still, with the exception of some of the Mancubus fireballs. Well, most of the time, when Doom's slopes decide to be precise, not including the Mancubus ones, here's the accuracy of projectiles when partially invisible. At 2,000 units, only 5% of the projectiles will be aimed at you. At 1,000 units, it's 9%, at 500 units, it's 18%, at 250 units, it's 40%, and at 125 units, it's around 81%. Keep note that these estimations were determined with the smallest projectile available, like an imp fireball.
Yeah, because the wider the hitbox is, the larger chance there is, the closer you are that it's going to hit you, because it has to, if you're right up the target's ass, there's not much room for the fireball to go. Obviously, assuming you're not in melee range. So like an imp fireball, you could be like that far away and it would likely miss. But if it's like a Mancubus fireball, that's different. Or whatever fireball has like a bigger hitbox. I'm assuming for rockets, it's assuming like direct hits.
Larger projectiles
it would
like
assume direct hits.
Plasma bolts will raise the accuracy percentage slightly as they cover a larger area that may overlap with the target's hitbox. Let's see how a bigger collision box affects the accuracy. 2,000 units, 7%. 1,000 units, 14%. 500 units, 25%. 250 units, 54%. And at 125 units, 90%. What about Mancubus fireballs? Both fireballs will do their separate RNG call for the angles. What are the odds either of the two will hit you when standing still? At 2,000 units, it's about 7%. At 1,000 units, it's 15%. 500 unit distance, it has a 28% chance. 250 units, it's around 52%. And at 125 units, there's a 90% chance it will hit an immobile target. Interestingly, these values are nearly identical to the Electrotrons. For hit scan, these inaccuracies are useful.
Well, they're about the same size now.
Instant attack. What this means is that these accuracy values are relevant for both mobile and immobile targets. For projectiles, however, the partial visibility ends up being quite a nuisance most of the time, especially when close combat is involved. Muscle memory will screw you over, and you'll end up running into projectiles while trying to dodge. Spectres also have a shadow flag set. The accuracy of enemies in fighting spectres is also reduced. This is something you'll almost never see because—
What? Wait, that's a thing? What? What the fuck? I didn't know that.
The accuracy of enemies in fighting spectres is also reduced. This is something you'll almost never see, because enemies in fighting with a spectre occur with pretty much no distance between the two. A phase target is called once.
That's a fair point, actually. Because in fight with a spectre, you're going to be in melee range anyway. I didn't know that. Wowzers, dude.
You point the archfall towards the corpse he's reviving. So if the corpse is a spectre, the archfall's angle will have a random offset. Hard to notice, but it's a thing. The player's corpse will also be permanently shadowy when they happen to die with the partial visibility active. The shadow flag isn't only limited to players and specters. You can hack the flag onto pretty much any entity in Doom. Stuff like decorations, power-ups, and medikits will all show up with the fuzz effect. Yes, the fuzz effect. That's what the
fuzz. I'm surprised more things didn't do this back in the day. Like, I'm sorry, fighting a partially invisible cyber demon sounds like something that would have been done very fast back in the 90s. I'm surprised it hadn't happened more often.
Shadowy rendering is called internally. How does Doom handle that? It looks really cool, almost as if it's refracting light or something. Let's have a look. First, we need to talk about Doom's color palette. Doom's color range consists of these 256 colors. Anywhere you go in Doom, even the crazy colorful maps, are built out of these colors. You may be thinking, how is that possible? You've got the diminishing light, sprites and walls clearly get darker, and when you grab the radiation suit or take damage, there's clearly some color blending going on.
Well, I guess brightness, I don't know if brightness affects it. That's also just brightness. That's just a screen filter, and I didn't hear what you said for the last thing.
get darker, and when you grab the radiation suit or take damage, there's clearly some color
Oh yeah, screen filter.
blending going on. Well, believe it or not, even with all that, it's still limited to these 256 colors. This is where the color map comes into the picture.
Now, I know nothing about this. I'm assuming I didn't think putting a color over the screen would have messed with it, but I don't know.
What the color map does is determine the shade of the original pixel used in the first row. For example, the pixel of the Baron of Hell spec here is found in index 27. Then it darkens the pixel by going down the rows based on the Baron of Hell's light level. Not just that, but also which pixel to use when the player has the invulnerability vision. This is a very basic explanation of how the palette and the color map work. This will be explained in deeper detail in a future analysis video.
Huh.
So why is this relevant? Well, the fuzz effect uses the color map to take pixels from behind the sprite and darkens these. It does so by seeking the pixel's index on the color map's top row, then darkening them by using the same color index but on the 7th row instead. As you can see, the sprite is now transparent. What about the fuzz effect itself? This is done through the fuzz table. This is a table with predetermined vertical offsets. I'll step you through the process.
Oh, fuzz 0FF. I'm dumb.
This works. Sprites are rendered as columns from top to bottom. For each pixel, take the pixel of the background and darken it. Let's move on to the next pixel, but this time we also involve the fuzz table. The first index in the fuzz table is a positive offset, which means instead of taking the background pixel we want to draw, we copy the one below, darken it, and draw the copy. When we're done with this pixel, we increment to the next entry in the fuzz table. Moving on to the next pixel, this time the fuzz offset is negative, so we copy the pixel above. This one was already darkened, so it gets even darker. Draw it, increment the fuzz table index, and move on to the next pixel. A positive fuzz offset, so copy the background pixel below, darken it, and draw it. Basically, each time a negative fuzz offset appears, it uses a pixel that was already darkened. At some point, there are 4 negative offsets in a row, whose pattern can be spotted on the fuzzy sprite. The fuzz table has 50 entries, so when it reaches the end, it loops back to the first offset found in the table. The variable that keeps track of the fuzz table index is static, so when the new frame starts rendering the fuzzy sprite, it starts at a different index, creating a fuzzy animation. A very cool implementation indeed, but it has its flaws. Since the game picks pixels below or above the pixel that needs to be fuzzified, what happens if it picks a pixel that is beyond the screen? What do you do with a pixel that doesn't exist? Simple, just don't draw the pixel, Amal. The game checks if this pixel is part of the top row of the screen or the bottom. If that's the case, then skip the fuzzification of this pixel. This can be spotted in-game.
That's safe.
As you can see, the weapon sprite is missing a row of pixels at the very bottom.
Oh yeah, it is.
Same with the spectre up here. The top pixels are gone. The fuzzy animation can also appear static.
That's like not even noticeable. Also, again, I'm just amazed that the game can do this that fast when it's trying to do 800 other things like in frantic combat. It's just incredible to me that it can do that.
If the amount of drawn fuzzy pixels on the screen is divisible by 50, then it renders each frame with the same starting fuzz table index.
Oh, that's why it's like different. That's why, like, depending on the angle that it's at, that you're at, it is it'll do that. I was wondering why it would just like randomly sit still, or like the fuzz would just... That's really cool.
The darkening of the sprite can also be flawed. Doom's palette of 256 colors can be quite limiting, especially when the color shading range is terrible. Take this magenta for instance. The shading is almost non-existent. It doesn't switch colors to grey until it's quite dark. Since the fuzz effect takes the 7th row of the color to darken it, what the hell do you do here? Yeah, not much. The fuzz effect won't show at all with these colors in the background. Fortunately, Doom barely uses these colors, only for Commander Keen's shirt, the Kako lightning ball, this lone pix on the tech wall texture, light amplification goggles, and perhaps, a bit ironic, the partial invisibility. But if you want to create a very fun map with this limitation in mind, make a map with walls and floors using this color only.
Oh god.
Spectres everywhere, make the room full bright, and enjoy not being able to see spectres at all.
Yeah, someone's gonna do something with this. I'm
make it less
predicting it.
evil and reduce the brightness. Place light amplification goggles everywhere that you need to dodge, otherwise the spectres will appear completely invisible.
Oh! Yeah, damn.
Or perhaps some kind of deathmatch map, like grabbing partial invisibility is the new god power-up.
Yeah, then you just hide and you just wait. You know, when I was trying to get the achievements in Doom 3 multiplayer, that's like the shit I would do. Is I would like... I think there's an achievement for like finishing a match without dying. You don't have to win, you just have to finish the match. So what I would do is literally, because the shadows are really, really dark, so what I would do is just hide under the stairs and just not move or do anything. And I would just never get spotted. And it was hilarious. It's something in that similar vein where you would just kind of hide and wait.
I think there's plenty of
That's like, you're gonna get jump scared so easily with that.
fun stuff to do with the fuzz effect and Doom's crappy color ranges. Well, as long as your victims use software rendering, that is. The partial invisibility for the most part is considered a meme power-up, and yes, it's very situational. Great against hit-scanning enemies, but when projectiles are involved, you'll just end up running into them.
It's
The
dangerous.
fuzz effect rendering is fascinating though. It's so simple, yet great looking. It's truly one of those visual effects that aged like fine wine.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone,
Ah!
the
I'm
YouTube
blind. Thank you, Decino!
members, the patrons, and the following sexy nerds: Agonizing Oral Pain, Andre
That's just the first name. That's just the first name. Hell yeah, Decino. Thank you for the wonderful video. Good job as always. Well done. That was very fun to learn about. It's something I never thought would not even get an analysis video, but it's just not something I thought about. I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, let's do a video on that. I figured it was like already done. I guess agonizing rectal pain is gone, yeah. I guess they finally got an enema.